change I spent on you. Where have the times gone, baby? It's all wrong. Where are the plans we made for two? If happy ever after did exist, I would still be holding you like this. And all those fairy tales are full of it. One more stupid love song, I'll be sick. Now I'm at a payphone. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go. Staring at the bottom of your glass, hoping one day you'll make a dream last. But dreams come slow and they go so fast. You see her when you close your eyes. Maybe one day you'll understand why everything you touch surely dies. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. Staring at the ceiling in the dark, same old empty feeling in your heart. 'Cause love comes slow and it goes so fast. Well, you see it when you fall asleep, but never to touch and never to keep. 'Cause you loved her too much and you dive too deep. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go. Oh, oh, and you let her go. Oh, oh, well, you let her go. You only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. Only know you've been high when you're feeling low. Only hate the road when you're missing home. Only know you love her when you let her go. Well, you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go.
I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to save me. This all or nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to hear, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to turn to. This all or nothing way of loving got me sleeping without you. Now I need somebody to know, somebody to heal, somebody to have, just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you help me escape. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved, and I tend to close my eyes when it hurts. Sometimes I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in your sound till I come back around. For now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you loved. We were good.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, greetings to all of us. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, greetings of virtue. The Honorable Dr. Muhammad Khairul Anwar, SAG MEI, as First Deputy Dean for Learning, Research, Community Service, Student Affairs, and Alumni Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. The Honorable Professor Dr. Gair Zasmi bin Matgani, as Dean of the Kuliah Economics and Management Science International Islamic University, Malaysia. The Honorable Dr. Lintang Fenyasita, SAMSE, AKCA, BKP ACPA, as Chairman of Tech Center Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. The Honorable Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas, as Chairman of the Tech Center Community for the 2025 Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. The Honorable Muhammad Munawar, as the Chairperson BACC Association International Islamic University, Malaysia. The Honorable Adelia Rizka Yunita, as Chief Executive of the International Tech Webinar 2025. Also, all the participants and guests of the 2025 International Tech Webinar we are proud of. Thanks for the presence of Almighty God for all His blessing, so that we can attend the International Tech Webinar 2025 with the theme Enhancing Tax Ratio without putting pressure on the economy amid global trade disruptions. Let me introduce myself. I'm Mutiara Karunia, as the Master of Ceremony who will guide the event in this bright morning. Before starting the activities today, allow me to read out the sequence of event for the International Tax Webinar 2025. Sequence of event: opening, singing the national anthem of Indonesia and Malaysia, speech, documentation session, reading of moderator CV, presentation of first material followed by Q&A session, presentation of second material followed by Q&A session, conclusion reading by moderator, game session, rewarding, and then closing. Honorable guests, let us open today's event with prayers according to our respective religions and beliefs. Pray begin. Praying is enough. Before we begin the International Tax Webinar 2035, allow us to express our gratitude to SNISHOP for their support and contribution, which has made this event possible. Before starting the first agenda, the participants are expected to use a virtual background and rename their Zoom with format participant_name. Now, the next agenda is listening to the Indonesia and Malaysia national anthems. To the audience, please sit with perfect posture and follow devoutly. And to the committee in charge, please proceed with the national anthem. Thank you to the committee for providing the national anthems. Move to the next agenda is speech. The first speech will be delivered by Adelia Rizka Yunita as Chief Executive of the International Tax Webinar 2025. To Adelia Rizka Yunita, the screen is yours. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Dr. Muhammad Khairul Anwar, SAGMEI, as Vice Dean, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya. The Honorable Professor Dr. Gairus Zasmi bin Madgani, as Dean of the Kuliah Economics and Management Science, International Islamic University, Malaysia. The Honorable Dr. Lintang Venusita, SAMSI, AKCA, BKP, CPA, as a chairman of the Tech Center Community, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, the Honorable Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas as chairperson of the Tech Center Community, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, the Honorable Muhammad Munawar as chairperson BICC Association, International Islamic University, Malaysia, and all participants members. First of all, let us be grateful because today we can join together in the International Tax Webinar 2025, a collaboration between Tech Center Community Universitas Negeri Surabaya and the BICC Association, International Islamic University, Malaysia. On behalf of the committee, I'm as the Chief Executive, would like to warmly welcome all of you. It is truly a pleasure to see such great enthusiasm from both universities and participants who have joined us today. This webinar is a form of our shared spirit in learning and exchanging knowledge about taxation. We know that tax is not only about numbers, but also plays an important role in justice, fairness, and supporting the development of a country. Through this event, I hope we can broaden our insight, gain valuable knowledge from our distinguished speakers, and also strengthen collaboration between Indonesia and Malaysia. I would like to sincerely thank all the speakers, moderators, and the committee teams from TCC and BACC for working hard to make this event possible. Finally, I encourage all participants to actively join the discussion and Q&A session later. May this webinar brings benefit for all of us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Adelia Rizka Yunita for your speech. The second speech will be delivered by Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas as chairman of the Tech Center Community, Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. To Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas, the screen is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to extend a warm welcome to all participants of the 2025 International Tax Webinar. First, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Professor Dr. Muhammad Khairul Anwar, SAG MEI, as Vice Dean for Learning, Research, Community Service, Student Affairs, and Alumni, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, the Honorable Professor Dr. Gairus Zasmi bin Madgani, as Dean Kuliah of Economics and Management Sciences, International Islamic University, Malaysia, the Honorable Dr. Lintang Venusita, SA, MSc, AK, CA, BKP, ACBA, as Chairperson of the Tax Center, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, the Honorable Muhammad Munawar, as Chairperson, BICC Association, International Islamic University, Malaysia, and all other esteemed speakers, participants, and guests joining us today. We begin this event with gratitude to the God for granting us the opportunity to gather, exchange knowledge, and engage in healthy intellectual dialogue. Today's webinar, we will examine the tax to GDP ratio across several countries, especially in Southeast Asia countries. I believe although many countries in this region have achieved notable GDP growth, Their tax to GDP ratios often remain below the World Bank suggested benchmark of 15%, a level that believed to support more inclusive and sustainable development. This apparent gap raises important question about tax capacity, policy design, and the role taxation plays in financing public goods and reducing inequality. I hope that through these presentations and discussions today, we will gain fresh insight into the structural, administrative, or policy factor that influence tax performance. And more importantly, I hope this forum will inspire us, especially the youth, to consider constructive ways to contribute to our nation's fiscal strength and public welfare through informed research, advocacy, and professional engagement in the tech sector in the future. In closing, I wish the organizer every success and trust that today's program will run smoothly and yield meaningful outcomes. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you a productive and enlightening webinar. Thank you.
Thank you to Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas for your speech. By Muhammad Munawar, SBACC Association International Islamic University Malaysia. To Muhammad Munawar.
Assalamualaikum to everyone and very good day, very good morning. The Honorable guest, Dr. Carol Anwar, the First Deputy Dean of Faculty Economics and Business, University of Surabaya, Dr. Lintang Venusita, the Chairman of Tax Center, our distinguished speakers, my Dean, Professor Dr. Gairuz Azmi bin Magani, and Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara, and our colleague from the main organizer, the Tax Center community, Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas, the chairman of Tax Center community, tenure of 2025, and our chief executive for this event, Adelia Rizka Yunita, respected lecturers, all students from Malaysia and Indonesia, and dear participants. So on behalf of BACC Association, International Islamic University of Malaysia, it is really my honor to participate and welcome all of you to this event, the International Tax Webinar 2025. It is a joint efforts and program between BACC IUM and also the Tax Center community of UNESA. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like first and foremost to sincerely appreciate and thank our distinguished speakers for their attendance here and sharing their knowledge and exposing us with the taxation insights from the perspective of Malaysia and Indonesia. And to our friends at UNESA, TCC, we deeply appreciate these collaborations as this is the first BACC international collaboration for this year, and we are looking forward for more engagement and collaboration in the future. To all participants, I'm sure everything that will be presented today will expose us to a deeper understanding of how tax is working in the real world, specifically in the point of view of Malaysia and Indonesia. So please keep engaging in the discussions and actively participate later in the Q&A sessions for your inquiries. And with that, I wish everyone to enjoy the fruitful discussion and valuable insights from both of our speakers. May this event strengthen our knowledge of taxations, the network connections between us, and share commitments to contribute positively to the world of taxations. And thank you. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Muhammad Munawar for your speech. The next speech will be delivered by Dr. Lintang Venusita, SAMSE, AKCA, PKP, ACPA, as General Chair of Tech Center, Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. To Dr. Lintang Fenyusita, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Honorable Dean Professor Anang Kristianto and Vice Dean of FEB UNESA, Dr. Khairul Anwar, distinguished speakers, Professor Gairus Sasmi bin Madgani and Professor Dian Anita, all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, salam Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. And a warm welcome to all of you joining this international text webinar on behalf of the organizing committee. It's my privilege today to open the webinar. Devote to the timely and consequential is enhancing tax ratio without putting pressure on the economy amid global trade disruption. We convene at a moment when the international economic landscape is characterized by heightened uncertainties such as exchange rate volatility and the accelerating digitalization of commerce that have collectively received the tax-based cross jurisdiction. For many governments, improving the tax ratio remains a central pillar for fiscal sustainability and for financing development. Yet the policy imperative is nuanced. How do we rise and stabilize revenue in way that is pro-growth, investment-friendly, and socially equitable? But external shocks and trade disruption constrain the very activity that generates stable value. We are deeply honored to his willingness become our first speaker, Professor Gairus Sasmi bin Madgani from the Kuliah of Economic and Management Science International Islamic University Malaysia. We look forward to his insight on our webinar topic today. Besides that, we are equally privileged to have Professor Dian Anita from the FEB UNESA as a second speaker. Our speaker have academic leadership and long engagement with issue of taxation and governance that will ensure today's conversation is both analytically rich and constructively focused. And finally, I would like to express sincere appreciation to our organizing teams, that is Mr. Pamungkas, Mr. Munawar, Ms. Adelia, and teams who carefully preparation as made this session possible. Our thanks also to all participants. Your presence signally a shared commitment to support sustainable growth and anchor in fairness and transparency. With that, it is my honor to declare this webinar open. So enjoy the webinar. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Dr. Lintang Fenyusita for your speech. The next speech will be delivered by Professor Dr. Gairuz Economics and Management Science, International Islamic University, Malaysia. To Professor Dr. Gairuz Zasmi, the screen is yours.
Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guests, the Deputy Deans of the UNESA and all the committee members that is organizing this event. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank the committee for inviting me to this event. I would also like to congratulate the committee, okay, from Indonesia and from Malaysia, for organizing this event. Okay, we know today we have issues with a global trades because of the one countries that is in a way changing the trade infrastructures that we have currently. And with the changings of the trade infrastructures that we have currently, it's also impact the taxation structures that we have in the world. And at the same time, we also have this global minimum tax that's going to affect different countries in the world. So hopefully, with the discussions that we have today, we are going to improve our knowledge with regard to taxations, okay? And hopefully, understanding the taxation will be able to improve uh, the situations that we have in our countries. Okay, so thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to Professor Dr. Gairu Zasmi for your speech. Now, after we symbolically open today's event, let's hear a special speech from Dr. Muhammad Khairul Anwar, SAG MAE, as First Deputy Dean for Learning, Research, Community Service, Student Affairs, and Alumni Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. To the committee in charge, please proceed the special speech.
Baik, thank you. Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable to Professor Dr. Gairu Zasmi bin Madgani, the Honorable to the speakers, Professor Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara, the Honorable to the PCC Board Lecturer, Dr. Lintang Inusita, the Honorable to Mas Ridwan as the Chairman of Tax Center Community, Faculty of Economic and Business, UNESA. It is truly an honor for me to be here this morning representing the Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas Negeri Surabaya, to warmly welcome all of you to the International Tax Webinar 2025. This webinar is the result of a meaningful collaboration between Universitas Negeri Surabaya in Indonesia and the International Islamic University Malaysia. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude and appreciation to our distinguished speakers. The first, Professor Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara from Universitas Negeri Surabaya, who has been consistently contributing to research and education in taxation in Faculty of Economic and Business UNESA. Second, Professor Dr. Wairul Alsmi bin Madgani, the Dean of the Kuliah of Economic and Management Science, International Islamic University Malaysia, who has kindly agreed to share his insight and expertise with us today. I would also like to acknowledge the tremendous effort of the organizing committee, especially our students from the tax center community of FEB UNESA, who have worked tirelessly to make this event possible. Without your dedication, this international collaboration would not have come to life. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of taxation has never been more relevant than it is today. In this era of globalization and digital transformation, taxation is not merely a national issue, but also a global concern. Countries across the world face similar challenges to create a fair, transparent, and effective tax system that support economic growth, ensure social justice, and respond to the rapid change in technology and business model. Ladies and gentlemen, uh, this event is more than just an academic seminar. It is a symbol of international friendship, academic collaboration, and the shared commitment to advance knowledge. The partnership between Universitas Negeri Surabaya and the International Islamic University Malaysia demonstrate that when universities from different countries come together, the impact can reach far beyond national borders. Before I close, allow me once again to express my heartfelt appreciation to everyone involved in this event, our distinguished speakers, our international partner university, the organizing committee, and of course, all participants who have joined from different places. Your presence is what makes this webinar truly special. Ladies and gentlemen, with great honor and by saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open the International Tax Webinar 2025. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I would like to thank to Dr. Muhammad Khairul Anwar for his special speech for this event and the committee for providing the speech. Okay, before we continue to the next agenda, I would like to ask all participants to attend on the attendance form provided in this room chat. Once more, for all participants, please fill out the attendance form and the time to fill it out is only 30 minutes. So make sure you have your attendance 30 minutes from now. And now, before we start the main agenda, let us take some documentation to capture today's moment. I will guide you in this documentation session. So for all participants, please turn on your camera and use the virtual background that has been provided. Prepare your base pose, and to the committee member in charge, please help document the group photo session. All right, let's start with the first slide. 1, 2, 3. The next slide. 1, 2, 3. The next slide. To shorten the time, I would like an excuse to the next slide as the last slide in this documentation session. Okay, so for the last slide, 1, 2, 3. Thank you to all participants for participating in this documentation session. Before starting the next agenda, the participants are expected to use a virtual background and rename their Zoom with format participant_name. All right, we will move on to the main event of today, which is the presentation of material by our great speakers. The presentation of the material will be guided by the moderator. Therefore, allow me to read the CV of our extraordinary moderator. To the committee member on duty, please display the moderator's CV. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Aditya Ramadan Al-Ghifari, an accounting undergraduate student at the State University of Surabaya, with an impressive track record of achievement and experience. He has served as Master of Ceremony of prestigious international events such as Europe on Screen and Hybrid Asia Exploration, which brought together students from various Asian countries. Aditya has earned numerous accolades, including first place in the ISEC competition 2025, second place in the National News Anchor competition, as well as awards in Digital Magazine, English Speech, and Debate Contest. Currently, he is actively involved in the tech-centered community of the Faculty of Economics and Business, State University of Surabaya. Known for his creativity, proactiveness, and strong commitment to excellence in every task he undertakes. Okay, hello, how are you and how's in there, Adi?
Hello, MC. Thank you for asking. It is such an honor for me. I'm truly excited to moderate this important session for today.
How is your feeling about being today's moderator?
I'm doing very well. Actually, I'm very excited. This session has been quite interesting, and I'm looking forward to moderating these sessions.
So now, are you ready to guide the presentation material and Q&A session?
Absolutely. I'm ready whenever you are.
Okay, because Aditya is already prepared and excited to guide the agenda, I will hand it over to Aditya Ramadan Al-Ghifari. Thank you.
Thank you, MC, for the handover. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, greeting to all of us. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Aditya, and it is an honor for me to guide today's main sessions at the International Tax Webinar 2025, which is held in collaborations with BACC Association's International Islamic University Malaysia, and also our sponsorship. Today, however, we will discuss a topic that is very important in the current economic situations, which is enhancing tax ratios without putting pressure on the economy amid global trade disruptions. And we are joined by two extraordinary speakers who will share their insights and experience. Professor Dr. Gairus Asmi bin Madgani from International Islamic University Malaysia, and also Professor Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara from State University of Surabaya. Before entering our next agenda, allow me to read a brief profile of our first speaker, Professor Dr. Gairus Asmi bin Madgani, and to the committee in charge, please display the CV for Professor Gairus Asmi. Professor Gairus Asmi is a professor at the Department of Economics and Management Science in International Islamic University Malaysia. He earned his PhD in Political Economy and Public Policy, his MA in Economics and BS in Business Administration Finance from the University of Southern California. He has served as a Dean of the Faculty of Economics and Management Science, Director of the Graduate School of Management, and has collaborated with institutions such as UNDP and the Institute of Malaysia's Future. His research covers sustainable development, economic policy, Islamic economics, and global trade. All right, before we begin the main session, let us first greet our speaker, shall we? Good morning, Professor Garusasmi. How are you today?
Yes, morning. Great. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, Professor. How are you feeling before going in for the presentation?
Yes, okay. Just waiting for the presentation.
Yes, wonderful, Professor. We truly hope you are doing well, and we are very delighted to have you here with us. I'm sure everyone is very excited to listen to your insights. And without further ado, Professor Garus Asmi, you may present your presentations, and also the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, I can share the screen, right? Am I sharing the screen or the sharing is going to come from the other side?
The committee will help to present your PPT, sir.
Okay, so can you open the slide? Because I am not able. Okay. Okay, so Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So again, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So again, thank you for inviting me to these sessions, and seeing that we have about 400 or 500 people is very, very encouraging. So the topics that's given is enhancing trade ratio, but what I did is I add the revenue over there, because in the end, why is it that what really is the outcome in the end? The output is I think every countries want to have higher revenues, tax revenues, okay, so that we'll be able to have better, easier ways to manage the countries. Okay, so yeah, we know that currently that there's globally, we have a lot of disruptions, because of the issue with the US, that come up with different tariff for different countries, and you have countries in a way competing with each others, so that they will not be left behind. Okay, so if you look at the slides that you can see over there, the map. Okay, the map is showing you the government revenue as a percentage of GDP for different countries in the world. And what you can see is that the European countries, the tax rate is much higher compared to a lot of countries. No, can you go back to that previous slide? Yeah, can you go back to the map? Okay, so if you look at the map, what you can see is that the European countries, the government revenue as a percentage of GDP is much higher than a lot of the other developing countries, because the tax rate in those developed countries is much higher than tax rate for developing countries. And if we look at Malaysia and Indonesia, you'll be able to see over there the tax government revenue as a percentage of GDP is around 15%, which is very, very low compared to all the other developed countries. Why is this is very, very important? Okay? Because if you are talking about development, government require a lot of government require funding, okay, for them to develop the countries, and especially for developing countries. If, let's say, developing countries do not have the funding, then it's going to be hard for the for the government of those developing countries to fund development project. So you have this dichotomy over here. The developed countries, in a way, the revenue that they have is high, and in a way the requirement of development funding is much less, if you compare to developing countries, whereas developing countries which require a lot of funding, the revenue is much lower. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this slide is showing us what is the need and what is the total financing need if we want to achieve the sustainable development goals. Okay, I'm assuming that everyone know what is sustainable development goal. Okay, this is goals that is introduced in, I think, in around 2015 by the UN. Okay, so that countries all over the world, the development is going to be sustainable. Okay, so that when we develop our countries, we do not we take into account the environment, we take into account the people. Okay, so you have the 5P: the people, planet, prosperity, peace, and what is the other P? I forgot the other P. Okay, so the goals of United Nations is that the development is inclusive. Okay, and everyone will be able to enjoy the development. Okay, the thing is that for the planet Earth, okay, for the planet Earth to be able to finance sustainable development, okay, the financing need is very, very big. So if you see that, okay, the graph that you see there, you have the graph for 2015, 2022, and 2030. So of course, 2030 is the estimated financing. Okay, and if you compare, you have the orange, and then you have the kind of like the chocolate colors. Okay, the chocolate colors is the total available financing, and then the orange is the financing gap. So it's just looking at that. The amount of funding that is needed for the planet Earth, for every countries in planet Earth to achieve sustainable development, the amount of funding is not enough. Okay? Just using the taxations that we have currently. Okay? Even though we look at the developed countries, the revenue per GDP is already in a way relatively high compared to developing countries. Okay, but the total financing gap is still very, very large. Okay, in order for the planet Earth to achieve sustainable development by 2030. Okay, so because of this, so we need to discuss how should we fund sustainable development? How should we fund development in Indonesia? How should we fund development in Malaysia? Given that the large amount of gaps that we have. Okay, so can we go to next slide? Okay, so the question is, government need revenue. Okay, the thing is that to raise that during this global trade disruption really require a lot of cash. Okay, and then currently we have the issues with the with US implementing higher tariff for all these different all the countries that you have in the world. And all the countries that we have in the world are now competing with each other, okay, so that they will be able to get into the good side of the US. Okay, so US is increasing their tariff. So from the US perspective, you may have issues in the US, whereas the US increased tariff. The price of products in the US is also expected to increase. Okay. But if even though we are talking about tax, we are talking about tariff tax, may not be the primary drivers if we are talking about investment. If let's say we are talking about foreign direct investment, there are a lot of studies that show that investors come and invest in the countries not because of tax, okay, but because of political stability, because of the infrastructure in the countries, because of the skill, the labors that we have in the countries, whether the labor are skilled or not, okay, and whether it is easy to do business in those countries, okay. So you may have countries competing with regard to tax in order to try to get foreign direct investment, try to reduce tax as much as possible so that they will be able to get FDI. But okay, we have to keep in mind that tax is not the only thing. Okay, sometimes what is more important is political stability. So you can have countries that reduce tax to zero, basically tax-free. But if the politics is not stable, then foreign companies will not want to come in and invest in the country. So when we talk about tax, so we have to look into we need to look at holistically. Okay? It's not just about tax. Okay, but what's more important is the institutions that we have in the countries. Okay, what's more important is the culture that we have in the country. So if what we try to do is try to use tax to increase investment. Okay, so if let's say we try to compare Japan and Malaysia, or Japan and Indonesia, okay, try to compare the institutions that we have in Japan or institutions that we have in developed countries. Okay, the institution that we have in developed countries is much more advanced. Okay, just look at how people get in line when they want to get into a train. Okay, so that is in a way that is very, very important if we are talking about businesses. Okay, so if people in the countries are very, very disciplined, okay, follow rules, and it is much easier for business to operate. It's much easier for foreign companies to come and operate in countries if the institution is very strong. Okay, so can you go to the next slide? Okay, so the next slide is showing you the corporate tax rate. So since we are talking about trying to okay, the topics that this seminar talking about is enhancing tax rate. But when we talk about enhancing tax rate, then we have to look at from two different perspectives. Okay, if you look at from the perspective of the government, so and if we look at the perspective of businesses, the perspective of business is want to have a lower tax. Okay? In fact, they are asking for subsidy. Okay? And you are talking from the perspective of government. Okay? They want to have more revenue, and it is much better if they can get more revenue without increasing tax. So I think the first best is how do we get more revenue without increasing tax. Okay, and if you see there from the 1980s to 2024, I guess, okay, the worldwide weighted average of corporate tax have reduced. Okay, and I guess that's why one of the reason why do we have the international organization come up with this global minimum tax. So I guess trying to relate the topics that we have, trying to enhance tax ratio. Okay, and if you compare with this global tax rate, so there is a need for us to for us to increase tax rates, go back to the level in the maybe in the early 1990s. Okay, so the next slide, I think the next slide is also the same, looking at the corporate tax rate around the world. Okay. Okay, so let's get to the next slide. So the thing is that what really is the objective? Okay, so even though the topic is enhancing tax rate, I think what we should discuss is how do we increase revenue? Okay, rather than talking about tax ratio. Okay, but how do we increase revenue? So the first best, if can we increase revenue without increasing tax ratio? Okay, so next is, if let's say there is a need to increase tax ratio, okay, we need to be careful such that when we increase the tax ratio, it will not it will not reduce incentive for firm to invest. Okay, so first best is if we can increase revenue without increasing tax ratio, without increasing tax rate. Okay, and if let's say we are not able to do that, then we have to think about how. Okay, if let's say we want to increase the tax, we need to find a balance, because if the increase in tax is too high, then it's going to disincentivize companies to invest. Okay, so the situations in developing countries are different. The situation in developed countries are different. And if you look at a lot of developing countries, okay, what they are trying to do, okay, they are trying to lower the tax rate such that more companies going to come in and invest in the country. So if more countries invest in the countries, more companies invest in the countries, then GDP is going to increase, and the increase in GDP will increase tax. So that's the reason why why different countries want to reduce the tax. Okay, so we need to find a balance, and the balance is, and it's not easy to find the balance. And okay, and in fact, if we look at, as the countries become more developed, the tax rate will also increase, and the revenue per GDP will also increase. Okay, so that is the general perspective, looking at the different countries in the world. Now let's try to look at Malaysia. Okay. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, and the slide after. Okay, so this is the situations that we have in Malaysia currently with regard to government revenue. Okay, so if you see figure on the left, or the figure 5 there, okay, we can see that the government revenue have been increasing, okay, from 234 billion ringgit in 2021, and estimated in 2025 that the country is going to get a revenue of 340 billion ringgit. Okay, so in term of size, it has increased. Okay, but then if we look at the pace of growth, and if we look at revenue to GDP ratio, the revenue to GDP ratio have gone down. So in a way, this is similar to what has happened in globally. Okay, where from 1980s, the revenue to GDP ratio have been going down, and then the tax rate has also been going down. So one of the reasons why we have something like this happening is that, okay, so you have all these countries are competing for FDI. So as these countries competing for FDI, one of the way they want to attract FDI is to reduce the tax. Okay, so now what you have is, you have a lot of countries in the world reduce their tax rate. Okay, and Malaysia follow suit. Because if let's say Malaysia do not decrease their tax rate, what's going to happen then FDI is going to go to other countries. So because of the competitions. Okay, so even though the tax rate have been increasing, okay, but the reductions in revenue per GDP is very alarming. Okay, because as the country develop, okay, and as the countries want to provide services to their citizen, okay, then even the increase in the revenue have to commensurate with the increase in GDP. So you cannot have GDP increase much faster than the increase in tax. Okay, so if the GDP increase much faster than the GDP rate increase much faster than the tax rate, then the relative services that's provided by the government in 1980s is much higher than what we have today in 2024. So there is a need to increase that revenue to GDP ratio, and if revenue to GDP ratio increase, then the amount of government revenue will increase much faster. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this slide is showing you the revenue and the expenditure. So where does the revenue come from for Malaysia? So the revenue, a large percentage of the revenue. So even though you see over there, income tax is 150 billion, SST is sale and service tax, which is 47 billion. Okay, but we also have oil-related revenue over there, okay, which is 61 billion. So which is okay, so because if you see that the dependency of Malaysia on oil-related revenue is still very high. Okay, so that's why one of the things that the government is trying to do now, okay, is trying to reduce the dependency on oil-related revenue. So this oil-related revenue mainly come from Petronas, which is the Malaysia's petroleum companies. Okay, so you have two sides. One is the side on total revenue, and the other side is total expenditure. And if you look at the bottoms of the green, if you look at the bottoms of the green graph over there, you have the blue one of new borrowing. So the right side is total expenditure, the left side is total revenue, and new borrowing. Still the previous slide. Okay, so in order for Malaysia to finance its expenditure, Malaysia have to borrow, and the amount of borrowing is 80 billion. Okay, so because of that, we have the countries, Malaysia have a budget deficit. Okay, the thing is that almost all countries in the world have a budget deficit. So that's why if you in a lot of economic classes, then the question is, where does the country borrow from if every countries in the world have a budget deficit? Okay, so the green and the blue is the revenue side, and then the other side is the total expenditure side. Okay, so we can divide the total expenditure into operating expenditure and development expenditure. So why is it that I am showing this? Because when we want to talk about tax, what we are talking about is fiscal policy. Okay, when we want to talk about tax, what we want it is talking about fiscal policy, and if fiscal policy is about expenditure, so the expenditure can be divided into operating expenditure and development expenditure. Okay, and in order to finance this operating expenditure and development expenditure, we need to get total revenue. So we finance the operating expenditure and development expenditure from tax and from borrowing. So if let's say we are able to increase the revenue, we may be able to we'll be able to reduce the borrowing. Okay, and what is very, very important over here is that if you compare, okay, if you compare new borrowing and development expenditure, it is about the same. Okay, and if you compare total revenue and operating expenditure, it is about the same, because usually countries do not want to borrow to finance their operating expenditure. Okay, if they want to borrow, they want to finance development expenditure, because development expenditure is an expenditure, in a way is investment, okay, that will give return to the countries. Whereas operating expenditure, you see that the operating expenditure is for emoluments and retirement charges, debt service charges, subsidies and social assistance, and some other operating expenses. And if you see that for Malaysia, the expenditure for emoluments and retirement charges, so emolument is salary for the civil servants, okay? And then and the salary for the civil servant already takes almost a quarter of the total revenue. And then debt service charges is also very, very clear. If you see that it is 55 billion. The not so bad thing is that the debt service charges for Malaysia is that most of the debt are domestic debt, are local. Okay, so it is not international debt. Okay, and then there is also subsidies and social assistance, and then there are other operating expenses. Okay, so why is it that we need to get why is it that we have discussions about tax ratio? Okay, we have this discussion about tax ratio because the countries need to finance the operating expenditure and development expenditure. Okay, and this operating expenditure are the one that's going to provide the public services to the citizen of the countries. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so this slide show more detail on development expenditure. Where does the development expenditure goes into all these different sector? So you have goes into education and training, which is very, very big. Goes into health. If you have studied the SDG, so one of the SDG goal is with regard to spending on education and spending on health. So they have a goal of what is the percentage of the expenditure on health that a government should provide, and what is the optimal percentage of spending on education that the government should provide, so that the countries will be able to achieve a sustainable development. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so if you remember, in the operating expenditure, one of the things that we have in Malaysia is subsidies and social assistance. Okay, currently in Malaysia we are talking about these targeted subsidies. Previously, subsidies, what we have is a blanket subsidy. So what's the difference between blanket subsidies and targeted subsidies? Targeted subsidies is subsidies you target subsidies to different group of people. Okay, blanket subsidies is that the subsidies everyone will be able to get the subsidies, whether the person is rich or the person is poor. Okay, so if we go back to that operating expenditure, you can see that the amount of subsidies is very, very big. Okay, and a lot of subsidies, because the subsidies are blanket. Okay, the subsidies also goes to the rich. Okay, So one of the example that people always talk about is the petroleum subsidies in Malaysia. Okay, and if you want to buy petrol in Malaysia, it is one of the cheapest in ASEAN countries. Okay, the only countries that is cheaper than Malaysia, I think, is Brunei. So the Malaysian government spend, I think, about 50 billion ringgit per year for petroleum subsidies. The issue is that the households that are using a lot of petroleum, get a lot of transportations that are using big cars are the rich. Okay, so because of that, the rich are getting more subsidies than the poor. So if you look at that chart number 1 there, less than half of the 45.2 billion in subsidies and petroleum products in 2022 went to the bottom 80% of the household. Okay, so most of the subsidies go to the T20. Okay, so most of the subsidies go to the top 20 households that we have that you have in Malaysia. So most of the subsidies go to the rich. Okay, so this is so if we go back to what I say before, okay, whether we want to look at tax ratio or it's more important for us to look at revenue. Okay, yeah, and then we also need to look at how do we spend the revenue. Okay, so if let's say Malaysia is able to reduce the subsidy for the top 20% of the household, okay, then a lot more fund can be channeled to other type of subsidies. Okay, in fact, if we look at the different type of subsidies that we have in Malaysia, we have the subsidies for so the government have ceiling price for chicken, government have ceiling price for egg, bottle cooking oil, sugar. There's a lot of different things that are subsidized in Malaysia. So if the government are able to change, okay, the way the subsidy is given, okay, then they can channel the leftovers to the people that are more in need of the subsidy. So if you look at the retail price of sugar in the ASEAN countries, Malaysia is one of the lowest, okay, because the price is controlled. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so again, okay, why is it that we want to increase the tax? Because we want to increase the revenue. Okay, but I say before, we can increase the revenue without increasing tax. Okay, but if we go back to the first few slides, when we look at the SDG financing, okay, so for different for countries in the world, okay, to be able to achieve sustainable development, the financing gap is very, very big. Okay, so let's say now the government are not able to, okay, the government cannot increase the tax, because increasing tax, then you are going to disincentivize firm from investing. Okay, so what you have in this table here is it show us what are the different sources of financings that we can have to finance development. So we can divide the sources of financing, okay, into public and private, okay, and national and international. And what you see over there, so those are the different type of financing that the country can have. So if let's say the countries do not have enough revenue, so what the countries can do is, okay, the countries can rely on private investment. Okay, the private investment can be national private investment, the private investment can be international private investment. Okay, so that's why a lot of countries are pushing for foreign direct investment. So why they are pushing for foreign direct investment? Because the amount of tax, the amount of revenue that the country have is not enough to finance the development in the country. So So you can see that there's a lot of different type of financings that can be used, okay, that are not taxed. Okay, in fact, the countries can even rely on grants, to finance the development in the countries. Okay, so the first part, the first column that you see over there, public, national. So that's mainly tax. Okay, but that is not the only way to finance development, because we have a private investment. Okay, we have private national investment. Okay, and then we have private international investment. Okay, and we also have international public investment. So tax is just one it's just one way. Okay? It's just one column in the four columns that we have that you have over there. So if you do not have enough revenue, okay, for development, then you can look at other ways to fund the development in the countries. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Yes, for those who have not seen this before, okay, so this is the national, the financial positions of a country. So this is for Malaysia, where it where it show the revenue, how much revenue does the country get, okay, how much is the operating expenditure, okay, and then how much is development expenditure, and what's the deficit. What is the deficit, and what is the revenue and the deficit as a share of GDP. So you see over there, for Malaysia, the revenue as a share of GDP is only about 16%. Okay, so very small relative to developed countries, but relative to developing countries, I think it is not too much different. Okay, so can we go to the next slide? Okay, so where does the revenue can come from? The revenue can come from tax revenue. Okay, so you see that the component of the Malaysia federal government revenue. So we have tax revenue. Tax revenue can be direct tax, can be indirect tax. Okay, so you have the CITA is the corporate tax. PIT is the petroleum tax, and then the individual is the individual income tax. And then you have the indirect tax, which are the sales and service tax, excise tax, import duty, and export duty. And then the government can also have non-tax revenue. Okay, so if let's say, okay, we do not want to increase the tax, okay, the tax rate, then the government can look at the non-tax rate, okay, the non-tax revenue. So what you have there is license and permit, okay, and then investment income. So investment income is mainly come from Petronas for Malaysia. So a large percentage of the investment income is coming from the Malaysia petroleum companies. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so the next slide is showing you the importance of petroleum revenue in Malaysia. But okay, so can you go to the next slide? Okay, so the slide is which one now? Okay, so and then I'm just trying to show over here the amount of subsidies and social assistance that we have in Malaysia. So which is in a way it is very big. Okay, and it can be the distributions can be improved much better, because a large chunk of the subsidies that we have, it goes to the high income household. Okay, and then next slide, and then slide after this. Okay, so why I am showing the slide after this? So why I'm showing all this number? Okay, because I'm trying to relate back to the topics. Okay, the topic is talking about how to enhance tax ratio. Okay, and what I've said before. Okay, so what is important is revenue. Okay, so that so the first best, if what we can do is we maintain the tax ratio, or we maintain the tax rate, or we can, or if let's say we can reduce the tax rate, but we can still increase our revenue. Okay, so that is one. Okay, and then we also need to look at how do we spend the revenue that we have. Okay, if the way we spend the revenue is not efficient, then increasing the tax rate will not improve the situations of the countries. Okay, so again, what I'm trying to show over here is the subsidies. Okay, that is that in a way that can it can be improved much better, so that only the people who deserve get the subsidy. So if only the people who deserve get the subsidies, then we can use the revenue that we have more efficiently. Okay, so if we are able to reduce if we are able to rechannel the subsidies that goes into petroleum, okay, then Malaysia can rechannel the subsidies into education and health, okay, and pay the debt service charges that we have. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, and the next slide is showing the zakat collection by state and the different state in Malaysia. So another way to fund the social assistance is through zakat. So in Malaysia, zakat is collected by the state. Okay, so the amount of zakat that's collected by the state is 4.8 billion, I think, in 2024. Okay, but there are also wakaf and a lot of other Islamic instruments that can be used okay, to assist the people who needed the assistance. Okay. So this is another way for to use Islamic social finance to finance the development in Malaysia, and to help the people who need assistance in Malaysia. Well, can we go to the next slide? So next slide is the illustrative Malaysia financing ecosystem. So these are all the these are some, not all. These are some of the instruments that can be used for development. That can fund development projects, not just in Malaysia but in other countries also. Okay, because this is a project for Malaysia, so this is what I did last time with UNDP. All the different funding that we can use for development. Okay, rather than using tax. Okay, then we can have a lot of these different instruments. Okay, you have the philanthropic instrument, the crowdfunding. Okay, different type of loan, catalytic capitals. Okay, disaster risk insurance, ecological, fiscal transfer. So all these things can be used to finance development. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so as I said before, the first things that we want to look at is we want to see whether we can increase revenue without increasing tax. So these are some of the ways that can be done. Okay, so for Malaysia, this is what the countries is trying to do. Okay, go all in on e-invoicing. So every sale is reported in near real time. So when you have e-invoicing, then the countries will be able to detect all the transactions that you have in the economy. So when you are able to detect all the transaction in the economy, then you'll be able to improve the tax collection. So okay, target audit where the money is. The Malaysia, I think the Malaysia IRS, the Internal Revenue Services, is also auditing. And when they audit, they target the people that they want to audit. So with this auditing, then you are going to have more compliance. You are going to have a better reportings of income, and then you are going to get a much higher revenue. Okay, so the next slide. Keep broadening bases rather than hiking headline rate. Okay, so stay the course on the SST expansion. So currently the countries is expanding the SST into luxury good. Okay, so now so if you tax luxury goods, so you know that you are taxing the rich. Okay, capital gain on unlisted shares. So these are some of the things that the countries can do, and the countries are doing. Okay, in order to try to increase revenue without increasing the tax rate. Okay, so next slide is number 3. Make multinational pay at least 15% without touching local SME. So because we have the minimum global tax rate, Malaysia is trying to make multinational to pay at least 50%, which is the global minimum tax rate. Okay, number 4, shift toward green trade aligned tax. So this one, in a way, this is new tax. Okay, but this is when we are talking about tax for sustainable development. Okay, where you can come in and charge price for carbon emissions.
With great respect, Professor, I apologize for interruption.
almost
Just
done.
a gentle reminder, that reminding time is 10 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, almost done. Yeah, just 3 more points. Okay, so number 5 is to rationalize the subsidy. So this is again, like I said before, what the Malaysia try to do is try to target subsidy rather than having a blanket subsidy. Okay, custom and border revenue collects what owed faster. So digitize e-payments. So we need to look at digitalizations. Okay. Okay, and then number 7, revenue recycling to keep growth intact. Okay, and then number 8 is communication and sequencing, which is crucial for confidence. Okay, and Malaysia is working on its medium-term revenue strategy, and Malaysia have also come up with their fiscal I forgot that word. So something on the fiscal strategy. Okay, so all this will be able to increase revenue, okay, in a way without increasing the tax too much. Okay, so can you go to the next slide? Okay, so in the end, so this is from the Malaysia Madani economy strategy. So even though we are talking about okay, so what we are talking about today is we are talking about tax. So the thing is that what is the need for the tax? Okay, why the government are taxing people? Government are taxing people because they want to provide the services to the people. Okay, they want to provide services to the people. The more revenue the government have, then it's much easier for the government to provide services to the people. Okay, but to provide the services to the people, they have to rank the services. What are the services that are more important? They have to prioritize the services. Okay, of course, everyone is asking for assistance. Okay, but okay, the government will have to prioritize who need to get assistance. Okay, those who are the one that need the most assistance are the one that should be given the assistance. So the government need to move away from blanket subsidy to targeted subsidy, so that only people who get the only people who need subsidies get the subsidy. So if the government are able to do that, okay, then there may not be too much need to increase revenue. Okay, so if the services are efficient, so we have to look at holistically. Okay, it's not just talking about the tax rate. Okay, but we also need to look at how does the revenue from tax are used. Okay, if the revenue from tax uh, are not used efficiently, then whatever tax rate that we have will not be enough. So we need to be efficient. So from the Malaysian Prime Minister perspective, when he look at a country's development, what he say is that we need a more meaningful notion of prosperity that is based not on materialistic choice and consumerism, but on a more holistic idea of well-being. Okay? Prosperity based on ethical satisfaction is embedded in community rather than a perpetual quest for more material goods. Okay, the journey toward the holistic nation of prosperity must begin with the realizations that the economies that we have now has failed to tackle inequality and social inclusions. Okay, our economic framework must balance the mathematics of growth with morality of human dignity. So that's why we need to have the tax. Okay, so we need to have the tax so that we'll be able to provide. We'll be able to provide the need to those who need it. Okay, we'll be able to balance the mathematics of growth with morality of human dignity. So that's what we want to do, and that's what the tax rate is. That's what the tax revenue is, and that's what the tax revenue is for. Okay, so if we increase the tax, but the way the government service the people is not efficient, then we are just wasting the tax that we collected from the people. So with that, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the wonderful insights and the comprehensive presentation. After that, thank you very much, Professor, for the wonderful insight and comprehensive presentations. And after that presentations, I'm sure a lot of participants who are curious about what we just discussed, we will now enter the Q&A sessions for the first presentations. And for the participants who would like to ask the questions directly, please use the raise hand feature and turn on your camera once acknowledged by the MC. If you encounter any technical issues whatsoever, you may type your questions in the Zoom chat or YouTube comment sections, and I will happily read out some selected questions to the speaker. Okay. It looks like we have first questions from Mr. Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas. For Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas, you may ask your question.
Okay. Thank you, moderator, and thank you so much, Professor, for the insight. Valuable insight, very valuable insight. I want to ask about certain question. I want to ask about the Indonesian fiscal space, and probably can give your perspective from Malaysia fiscal approach. It is especially for tax extension and intensification. in Indonesia, because of the needs of nation trade openness, we need to increase the revenue from the domestic taxation. But at the same time, we also have a challenge to increase this domestic taxation, because although we already evaluate tax regulation, we lacked of tax officer to enforce the tax collection or tax audits. The estimation of tax officer is the total less than 45,000, and our population is around 280 million people, and we have already tried to increase for example, value-added tax, and receiving massive backlash from the public. So, how do you think is the best approach to address this scarcity of the tax officer, and probably the approach that we should do to increase our revenue effectively, and how do you think to implement certain tax regulation without raising the risk of public backlash? And once more, if you will. And second is about the extensification. We also have a difficulties to find a suitable approach to apply for example, carbon tax. And we have tried to consolidate with carbon trading and on the corporate level. Also, how do you think to apply this environment kind of tax to the public? Because as far as I know, it is often there is a concern about the risk of applying this kind of tax to the either public prosperity or because of the wrong approach. Probably that's all, Professor. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions, Mr. Ribot Mamukas. And for the Professor Gerusasmi, would you prefer to respond these questions right away, or would you like to save it and address it later at the end of the sessions?
Okay.
Okay.
So can we collect a few? Sorry, I muted. Yeah, can we collect a few questions, and then I'll try to answer the few questions.
Sure, Professor. Thank you for the clarifications. To the Mr. Ridwan Pamungkas, Professor has decided to keep it for now, and we will address it later in the sessions. So we kindly ask the participants to wait until the discussion part, okay?
No, it's okay. I'll just collect a few questions, and I can answer after the few questions, because I think there is another one that is also raising the hand from
Okay.
Ahmad Bahaki.
Yes, sure, Professor. To the participants, Ahmad Bayhaki, you may turn on your cameras and turn on your mic so that you can ask your questions.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity given to me by the moderator. I have permission to ask the resource person. First, given the important role of tax in development, how to ensure that an increase in the tax ratio not only strengthens the state treasury, but also directly contributes to improving the overall welfare of society. Second, what are the strategies undertaken by local government to increase the effectiveness of the tax ratio in encouraging regional fiscal independence, especially for regions who do not have strong local resources? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions, Mr. Ahmad Bayhaki. To the professor, would you like some
Okay,
time
so
to?
So let
Okay.
me try to answer the two questions. I think that the first question is talking about the tax officers and tax collections, where there's not enough tax officers that you have in Indonesia. Okay, so of course So this is a trade-off, okay, that I think that the countries have to look at. Okay. If let's say there is an increase in the number of peoples, in the number of personnel in the tax office, what is going to be the increase in tax collections? I think that should be able to be done easily. So if let's say you increase the number of tax officer, okay, how much is going to be the increase in tax collections or tax revenue? So if the marginal increase of tax officer, yes, going to increase tax revenue by a very, very big numbers, then I think it should be something that is obvious, yeah, that you can increase the number of tax officer. So whether there is a study have been done or not, I'm not sure lah. Yeah, in Indonesia, because it's always about the trade-off. So if let's say you increase one tax officer, you can increase 10 million in revenue. So that is a clear answer that you need to increase the number of tax officer. Okay, so again, I think I can answer both the question from Ridwan and question from Ahmad Baihaki. Again, if we talk about what I mentioned before, okay, when we want to look at this issue, we have to look at holistically. Okay, we have to look at holistically. Okay, so we have the tax revenue, we have the revenue, and then we want to use revenue for certain programs. Okay, so we have the revenue, and then we want to have we want to use the revenue for certain programs. Okay, and most of the time the revenue that we get, that the country get, will not be enough to satisfy everyone in the countries. Okay, so the countries will need to prioritize what are the issues, okay, that they want to tackle. Okay, so for those who study economics, we know you have this issue of scarcity. Okay, so when you have the issue of scarcity, the government will have to make choices. Okay, and the choices of the government, okay, if we look at from an Islamic perspective, there is already there is a guideline that the government need to follow. Okay, the government need to follow the higher objective of the Sharia. So if we look at from an Islamic perspective, okay, but then even if you look at from a mainstream perspective, the government, if you are talking about the democracy, the people already elected the government, and the people already, in a way, the government have their own manifesto, what they want to do. So the issue is that how do the government use the revenue that they have efficiently? Okay, so what are the regulations that we need to have so that the government will use the revenue that they get from tax efficiently? Okay, because we know the tax will not be enough. Okay, the government will have to prioritize. Okay, and then we need to bind the hand of the government so that they will not be spending whatever they wish. Okay, so if we follow the sustainable development goal, the guideline for sustainable development goal also come up with financing guideline. Okay, what the government have to do. So in Malaysia currently we have the Fiscal Responsibility Act. So the Fiscal Responsibility Act bind the government. Okay, bind the hand of the government, what they can do and what they cannot do. Okay, how much loan that they can how much debt the government can have. Okay, that is under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Okay, so the countries can come up with an act that going to regulate what the government can do, what the president can do. Okay, and then there is also the medium term medium-term revenue strategy, and then there's because if we look at the guideline from the SDG, they come up with a guideline so that when the government want to spend, they already know whether they have the money or not. So you can refer to a lot of guidelines by international organizations that in a way that that will be able to guide the government what they should do, what they shouldn't do. They can you have the guideline that guide, and then you can also come up with an act that's going to in a way that's going to bind the government so that the government will not do a thing that they shouldn't do. So in Malaysia we have that Fiscal Responsibility Act. So the act, it's already stated what the government cannot do, what the government can do. Okay, so and then Ahmad Bayaki also talk about how to ensure increase the tax ratio can improve society. So I think the same thing. So that there is a need for a guideline for the government what they can do and what they cannot do. And what we want is we want the tax revenue to be spent as efficient as possible, and the tax revenue should go to if it is for subsidy, it goes to those who are in need, not those who do not need the subsidy. Okay, so strategy for local government, I'm not very particular with the cases is in Indonesia, because in Malaysia the tax is under the federal government, and not much the local government are able to do. So that in Malaysia the regional fiscal independence, most of the almost more than 95% of the revenue come from collected by the federal government, and then federal government redistribute the revenue to the local government. So the systems that we have in Malaysia and the system that we have in Indonesia are different. Okay, so I guess that's the answer for the two questions from Ridwan and from Ahmad Bahaki.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your answers. Now to the participants who asked these questions, I believe both Mr. Pamungkas and Ahmad Bayhaki, is the response clear enough for you, or would you like to have a further clarifications?
It is clear enough for me. Thank you so much, Professor.
And for Mr. Ahmad Bayhaki, is the response clear enough for you, or would you like to have a further clarifications? Okay, I believe it's enough. Thank you to all participants for the excellent questions, and our deepest appreciations to Prof. Garu Sasmi for the insightful and comprehensive response. The Q&A session has truly enriched our understanding. Okay, entering our next agenda, allow me to read a brief profile of our second speaker, Professor Dr. Dian Anita Nuswantara, SAA SMSI AKCA BKP SIPS CRGP, and to the committee in charge, please display the CV of Professor Dian Anita Nuswantara. Professor Dian is a professor and senior lecturer at the Faculty of Economics, State University of Surabaya. She earned her bachelor's in accounting from University of Erlangga, her master's in accounting from University of Gadjah Mada, and her doctorate in accounting from University of Erlangga. She teaches courses such as public sector accounting, strategic management, and organizational behavior, and has published extensively in Sinta and Scopus. Her research covers taxations, fraud awareness, green leadership, and rural development. All right. Before we begin the next sessions, let us first greet our second speaker. To Professor Dian. Good morning, Prof. How are you today? Okay, to Professor Dian, there might be some issues with the connections. Okay, for participants, I think our second speaker has some connection issues. We would like to ask you to kindly wait for a moment so that her can join for a minute. Thank you. Okay, it seems like Professor Dian has already joined us today. Let us greet her another time. Good morning, Professor Dian. How are you today?
Hello, hello, hello. Sorry for these technical problems. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, Professor. We have hear you very clearly.
Sorry for this technical error. So, should we start now?
No, I would like to ask your feelings first, Professor, before going in for the presentation for today. So, how are your feelings before going in for the presentations, Professor?
Very nervous, but
I'm sure you do, Professor. We truly hope, however, you are doing well, and we are very delighted to have you here with us.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sure everyone is very excited to listen to your insights. And without further ado, to Professor Dr. Dian, you may start your presentation, and the screen is yours.
Okay. Sorry if there is a signal problems here because we have also another activities today, but hopefully you can hear my voice clearly. Okay, let's start from the title of our topic today, enhancing the tax ratio without hurting the economy. 2025 perspective. This title is very attracting. Since we know that balancing fiscal needs with economic growth requires sophisticated policy and of its policy, especially in this disruption era. In this disruption era, we are really have a hard, challenging situation. That is why tax ratio increasing is not an easy task. This is very hard work for the government and also the citizen, the public. Can we move next slide? Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Why the tax ratio increasing is challenging? We start from what is tax ratio. When we talk about tax ratio is a percentage of GDP compared to the tax. So the tax ratio reflects nation fiscal capacity and policy priorities. OECD data found that OECD countries' tax ratio in average is about 30% above, while in developing and also maybe some underdeveloping countries, it's less than 20%. Why tax ratio is matters for us? Because investor, even we know the previous presenters, previous resource speakers says that tax may not be the primary driver. It is, but some also still consider, and we also agree that the, the politics system, the infrastructure, the labor, the tax tariff, tax rate. So what we want, what we can conclude talking about tax ratio is not only talk about numbers. When we talk tax ratio, we also talk about economic stability. Why? Because higher tax ratio, it reflects how the people behave, how the people trust the government. It means it will create greater economic resilience and stability. That is why we have to measure tax ratio, not to see the numbers, but it reflects more than the numbers. Service underfunding. Since the government has so many function roles, so when the tax ratio is low, that means there are unfunded public services and infrastructure. If we back to the previous resource speakers, the keynote speakers says that infrastructure is important for the investor, labor important for the investors. That's mean when the tax ratio low, when if like there are so many programs that not well run, it means the investor do not want to come to our countries. Next, in this disruption era, What happened in this era about tax ratio? We see that in this era, the geopolitical tensions, arising international conflicts, increased tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, and we can see it now. And also supply chain issues, the persistent disruption, slow global trade. We can see today compared to yesterday, the price fluctuation is so dynamic. There is no guarantee this kind of commodity will be low price. It all depends on the supply chain, where the trade disruption influence or have an impact on the supply chain. And also export vulnerability. A country that have a high export dependence economies will face disproportionate impact from this disruption when their economy is supporting by export, but the supply chain matter, it will impact to their economy in their country economy. Go to the next slide. The next slide will talk about a policy dilemma. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. What is, no, back, please. The policy dilemma. In the policy dilemma, we can find that the growth forecast now in experience a slowing down about 2.4%. And also the volatility of profit, the up and down of the profit, nobody can predict now. It's quite different with 10 years ago. When I talk to my students about how to predict Indonesia, for example, 10 years in the future, maybe the students can find it 5 years then. But now, we predict now for 2 years in the future. We cannot predict in a precise prediction. And all the cost, the from the major needs. But now, the cost of living is much complex. They do not only need buy what they need, but everything what we need now become different between compared to 10 to 15 years ago. When we need only 3 primary needs, now we have many. Next. So, talk about what might happen if the government raise tax rates. First, The evidence show higher rates will slow investment and GDP growth, particularly in this uncertain situation. Investment deterrence. The second, keeping rates low for wealthy creates sharper trade-off in revenue collection versus equality. Trade-off intensification. When the government took this intensification, there will be cost of it. Competitiveness concern. In Indonesia, for example, business taxes directly affect international competitiveness. Consider in buying cars, of course, tax matters, particularly during global shocks, where everyone can compare easily from other countries. And also other countries can over easily to you. Next, we talk about sweet spot. The research indicates that optimal revenue sources vary significantly by development level. What works for advanced economies may harm developing ones. It means no one single rate can satisfy every situation. What might works in advanced economies may not work for developing ones. And also, what might work in developing ones in one country maybe not satisfying for other developing countries. That is why the balance evidence concern with equity consideration in tax design difference so that standardized model. So what we need to what do we need for the pressure-free reform? If we want to reform the tax policy, what should we do? Next slide, please. First, the government can consider to broaden its tax base. And it happened now. We can see that we move to the right, there is tax. We move to the left, there is tax. We move forward, tax also. Broaden tax base means expand coverage without raising marginal rates to avoid economic harm. Why its tax base indicate effective? It's remove inefficient exemption. It includes untaxed sectors. It's modernized the definition. This is the way to broaden the tax base. The second, boost compliance. Close collection gaps and reduce system leakage through technology. And it also happen in Indonesia nowadays. Digital reporting system, improve enforcement, simplified compliance. We convince that people will trust the government if they are accountable. This is the way to boost compliance. the government must be accountable. Also, we can choose shift tax sources, move toward growth-friendly, non-distortive taxes that minimize economic drag, consumption taxes, property taxes, environmental levies. This is the way to shift tax resources. Let's see the next slide. How an international case study, how they do the tax-based broadening. We learn from New Zealand's approach that New Zealand implemented low rates with a wide base and high compliance standards, and their tax ratio became 33%. It's achieved through broad coverage rather than high rates. How high is the rate? 15%. Applied with minimal exemptions for maximum efficiency. How is its GDP growth? 3.1. Average annual growth despite comprehensive taxation. If we see the previous slide, in general, in average, the GDP growth is 2.4 nowadays, but New Zealand's is 3.9. It means that using tax-based broadening can result in a high GDP growth. Next. The example, here is the example of base broadening. First, what should we do? Tax expenditure review. In and or cap inefficient tax expenditures and loopholes that benefit you but cost significant revenue. We know, I also teach a tax planning subjects. In this tax planning subjects, in Indonesia tax regulation, we found that still have many holes that we can exercise as a tax strategy. That's what domestic-based broadening. Capital income alignment, tax capital gains and dividends more consistently with earned income to reduce avoidance. 3. Untaxed sector integration. The government should bring informal economy activities into the tax system through simplified registration processes. In Indonesia, also, we still have untaxed sector integration. So, the last, digital economy taxation. And I also believe that around the world now have focused on digital economy taxation by updating definition, capture value creation in digital services and platforms. Talking about compliance gains, next slide. We try to closing the tax gap, the revenue opportunity. The US IRS estimates approximately $540 billion in uncollected revenue yearly due to non-compliance compared to our country. Similar gaps exist proportionally in most economies, representing significant untapped revenue. Digital tools now make capturing this revenue possible without raising tax rates. So how can we do that to closing the tax gap? Next slide. Technology. We have to use artificial intelligence technology for smarter tax collection, electronic invoicing, data sharing, predictive analytics, mobile solution. Remember, the technology is not human. He will do as procedure. He will increase trust, but the uh, the brain still human. So the government still hold responsibility to implement technology wisely. Let's rethinking about tax incentives next. We talk about strategic incentives. Next slide, please. And rate competition. Slide, please. Thank you. Smart tax policy targets growth areas rather than engaging in destructive red cutting. I will repeat my statement. Smart tax policy targets growth areas rather than engaging in destructive rate cutting. Unfortunately, we still found this nowadays. R&D investment target incentive toward research that centers long-term productivity gains. If we want to implement this incentive, we must choose areas that really result in productive gains. Green technology encourages environmental innovation through targeted tax benefits. Carbon tax. Do you think it will increase tax compliance? Digital skills support workshops upskilling for the digital economy transition. The government have a high technology, but the people do not. That's impossible. That is why if you, as government, want to deliver advanced technology, the people should have the sufficient digital literacy. Okay, next slide about policy example in R&D incentivization. Investment increase because the government put incentive on its R&D, 0 point, from long-run GDP improvement, not only short-term, because the R&D is not short-term. The high R&D, the good investment will create jobs, increase economy, increase education. And then this R&D will also increase patent application. Next slide. Consumption taxes. Is it efficient but regressive? Consumption taxes raise steady revenue with minimal growth penalties compared to income taxes. The regressivity concern can be addressed through careful design features. It means that basic necessities exemptions or reduced rates, direct rebates to low-income households, targeted voucher programs for essential goods. This must be implemented very carefully so that the people do not lose his trust to the government. Property and wealth taxes, untapped potential. Let's talk about property taxes, wealth taxes, inheritance taxes. Next slide. We talk about environmental taxes. Next slide. Talking about environmental taxes. Next slide, please. We talk not only tax, it has dual value, climate and revenue at the same time. We save the environmental, we got carbon revenue, at the same time emission reductions, and creating so many green jobs. Next, we also experience combating tax erosion by multinationals. Global minimum tax. The pilot to implementation during 2024 and 25 established 15% minimum effective tax rate. Also, BIS protection tackles profit shifting and tax erosion by eliminating tax havens advantages. And international cooperation requires coordinated implementation among major economies to be effective. Yes, we believe that international trading will benefit us, but we have to make sure this framework implemented. Let's see the next slide. The other strategy, next slide. Talking about whom we will support. Whom will the government support? The government should support vulnerable sectors. First, trade exposed industries, small businesses, and manufacturing. Next slide. We talk about fiscal transparency and public engagement. It means when the public, then the fiscal will increase. Let's see the last two. What to avoiding shock. Next slide. Next two slide. The next slide. The next slide is about pilot programs. The government, when implement those programs, should set the pilot programs, the gradual phase-in, economic monitoring, responsive adjustment. And also, next slide. The summary, path to a stronger tax ratio. First, please, the government, we ask government to develop technology and modernization, base broadening and gap closing, compliance and transparency, growth-friendly tax sources, economic vitality. And the last slide, we do recommend what should government do for 2025 and beyond. First, priorities base broadening, accelerate technology adoption, incentivize strategic investment, and balance short and long-term needs. Moderator, that's all my lecture today. And hopefully we can meet in the other event. And I am sorry that this is the end of my session. I have another agenda today. So please send my regards to all participants. Moderator, I give all time to you And sorry that I asking goodbye for everyone. I'm sorry for this condition and wish you all succeed in the future. Thank you, moderator.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for sharing your thought-provoking and practical insights. Because Professor Dian has some other agendas or some another event to attend, we will move on to the next session, which are briefly summarized for today's discussions, both from the first speaker and also the second speaker. Okay. For the first speaker, Professor Gerusasmi emphasized that enhancing tax revenues amid global trade disruptions must be done carefully to avoid burdening the economy. But instead of raising tax rates, government should focus on closing compliance gaps through the invoicings and targeted audits, broadening the tax base and gradually introducing green taxes like carbon pricing. He also underlined the importance of rationalizing subsidies to protect lower and middle income households, improving customs revenue through digitalizations, and recycling revenue to support SMEs, households, and innovations. Ultimately, he reminded us that the true prosperity is not merely about material growth, but also the well-being of fairness, sustainability, and human dignity to a vision of human economics. And from the second speaker, Professor Dian, she highlighted that improving the tax ratio is crucial for stronger fiscal capacity. However, this should be done without harming growth. Instead of simply raising rates, the government should broaden the tax base, close compliance gaps with digital tools such as AI, and have mentioned before, and shift it toward growth-friendly taxes such as consumptions, property, and also environmental levies. She also emphasized that the need for smart incentive in R&D and green technology, as well as fiscal transparency and public trust. In short, building a stronger tax ratio requires a fairness, modernizations, and also sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, both speakers have emphasized that increasing the tax ratio requires smart, adaptive policies that do not burden the economy, even in the midst of global trade disruptions. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the moderated sessions for today's webinar. On behalf of the committee, I would like to express our gratitude to both of our speakers for their time and also valuable insights for today's agenda, and also to all participants for your active involvement. As the moderator, I apologize for any shortcomings during the sessions. I hope today's discussion has been very meaningful and also beneficial for all of us. With that, I officially close these sessions. Thank you very much and see you again in the next event. Now I return the sessions to our MC to guide us to the next agenda. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you for special speakers today and Adit for accompanying the two speakers earlier. I would like to ask all participants to attend on the attendance form provided in this room chat. Once more, for all participants, please fill out the attendance form and time to fill it out is only 30 minutes. So make sure you have your attendance 30 minutes from now. Alright, after going through the very interesting material presentation and discussion related to taxation issue, it would be nice to refresh our brains with a little entertainment and games. So for today's icebreaking, you will answer some questions from quizzes, and for the committee in charge, please share the screen of the quizzes. The committee has shared the link for quizzes, so all of you can start to join the quizzes by clicking the link in this room chat. And please rename the name of quizzes with the format name_institute. Don't worry about the question because it's a fun question, and for more information, the faster you answer, the higher your score. Okay, for all participants, you can start to join the game in the link that has been shared by the committee in this room chat. Okay, while waiting other participants, are there any questions before you do the quiz? You can raise hand and turn your camera. Once again, are there any questions before you do the quiz? You can raise hand and turn on your camera. Okay, once again, while waiting the other participants, are there any questions before you do the quiz? You can raise hand and turn on your camera. And for participants who have not yet joined, can join immediately. Once again, for participants who have not yet joined, can join immediately. Udah. Okay, I think all participants already understand the quiz systematically because no one asked anymore. So in here, there are more than half who joined Zoom already joined in this quiz. So to shorten the time, let's start the quiz. For the committee in charge, please start the quiz. Okay, while waiting, once again, I want to ask to you, are there any questions before you do the quiz? I think this quiz is suitable for everyone. Not too hard. And remember, before you do this question, the faster you answer, the higher your score. Okay, while waiting for the committee, who wants to sharing with your experience about last material? You can raise hand and turn on your camera. Okay, no anyone wants to answer, so I will choose you. I will choose to Mr. Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas. You can turn on your microphone and your camera. Okay, hello Mr. Muhammad Ridwan Pamungkas.
Yeah, hello.
How are you and how's in there?
Of course, I'm really happy because to hear the insight from both countries, I think it is amazing to know how is the approach of the Malaysians to their fiscal policies and everything. I think it is amazing.
What do you think about the last material in the first material and the second material?
I think it is very insightful, of course, although it is a bit, uh, I'm a bit disappointed because the second uh, Professor Dia could not open the question session because I had a question that I want to ask, but it's okay. I guess we can talk or discuss it on the other forums. But I the professor criticizes me is really correct about the taxation. I believe the tax collection is not only about how do we collect the tax, how we can maximize the collection, but it is also about the distribution, how we can distribute the tax that we have collected effectively. It is really insightful.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your answer to Mr. Muhammad Pamungkas. Okay, I want to remember to you for the participants are who have not yet joined can join immediately in quizzes. Okay, here are the participants' leaderboards from quizzes. Okay, we can see in the first rank is Rabiatul Adaw. To all participants, please keep your spirits to winning this game. Okay, I want to remember to you must answer the question faster and correct, so you will get first rank in this game session. Okay, until this time we can see that Robbie Atul is still leading the game and the board is still moving, showing that the participants is still thinking about the question. So let's see, is there any participants that can take first position from Rabi Atul?
Kok nggak ada lagunya lagi?
Okay, we can see here in the top of leaderboard, there are only the same participants. Still, there are no participants that can take first rank. Okay, to all participants, please keep your spirit to winning this game with answer the question correctly. And the faster you answer, you will get the winner. It's okay. This is just a fun game, so make sure you refresh brain after material presentation last time. Don't give up because we have still some times. The board is still moving, guys, so keep your spirit. The quiz will end soon, so those that have been collect, yeah, please do immediately. Okay, we will end for the game session. And for the committee in charge, please end the game. Okay, the quiz is over and we can see who's nervous about the results, guys. Okay, that's all for today's icebreaking. Thank you for participating and being active in this session. Are you guys nervous about the result? Okay, the next agenda is the announcement of the prize for the most active participants today. To the operator in charge, please display the door prize announcement. Okay, while waiting, what are your impressions of the International Tax Webinar 2025? Who wants to answer it? Please raise hand and I will choose you. Okay, if no one wants to answer, then I will appoint someone. In here, I see Miss Aldi Fadil. You can turn on your camera and your microphone. Hello, Mr. Aldi. Hello.
Hello, is my voice hold on.
Yes. Okay. Who's in there? Who are you?
Sorry, my place is kind of loud right now, so I have to like go to a different room.
Okay, I want to ask to you about what are your impressions of the International Tax Webinar 2025?
I think it's really, really nice because to be honest, this is my first time going to a webinar, especially like internationally. And this is really like my first this is my first experience listening to a lot of speakers from other countries. So it's really, really nice. It's really, really fun. And I've got a lot of knowledge from this webinar. So overall, I think it's just really, really uh, such a cool experience.
Okay, so wonderful, so interesting. Thank you to Mr. Ali.
You're welcome.
Okay, for the committee in charge, please display the door prize announcement. Okay, this is the door prize announcement. So first category is, next slide, please. Okay, I'm sorry. Please wait 2 minutes again. Okay, this is the winner. So first category is the best active participants. Okay, so the most active participants in International Tax Webinar 25 goes to congratulations for Ahmad Bayhaki as the most active participants in International Tax Webinar 2025. Okay, and the last category is the high score in the game. Congratulations for Rocky Atul as the high score in the game. Okay, for participants who get the best active participants and get the higher score in the game, please contact the contact person that was written on the chat of the Zoom meeting. And for those whose names have not been called, don't be discouraged and keep up your enthusiasm for another opportunity. It feels like we have reached of the end of the 2025 International Tax Webinar. I'm Mutiara Karunia. Okay, I will remind you. For participants who get the best active participants and get the highest score in the game, please contact the contact person that was written on the chat of the Zoom meeting. It feels like we have reached the end of the 2025 International Tax Webinar. I'm Mutiara Karunia. As the Master of Ceremony for this event, would like to thank the parties who helped make the event a success. Thank you to the moderator and speakers who are very extraordinary and all the participants who actively participate in this discussion. In closing, we would once again like to extend our sincere thanks to SNISHOP for their full support of the International Tax Webinar 2025. We hope this great collaboration will continue in the future. Before we officially close, let us pray according to our respective religions and beliefs. Prayer begins. Praying never ends. On behalf of the commits, I apologize if there are any inappropriate words or deeds. See you at the next International Tax Webinar 2026. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
On you, where have the times gone, baby? It's all wrong. Where are the plans we made for two? Yeah, I know it's hard to remember the people we used to be. It's even harder to picture that you're not here next to me. You say it's too late to make it, but is it too late to try? And in our time that you wasted, all of our bridges burned down. I wasted my nights, you turned out the lights. Now I'm paralyzed, still stuck in that time when we called it love. But even the sun sets in paradise. I'm at a payphone trying to call home. All of my change I spent on you. Where have the times gone, baby? It's all wrong. Where are the plans we made for two? If happy ever after did exist, I would still be holding you like this. And all those fairy tales are full of it. One more stupid love song, I'll be sick. You turned your back on tomorrow, cause you forgot yesterday. I gave you my love to borrow, just get